So I just posted a blog about women as priests in a church, and you know, I come from a church that is a rather traditionalist Pentecostal church. We haven't had any female pastors in our church. Well, we haven't had a pastor in our church, a paid pastor in our church at all. But you know, I think most of us feel that there are certain differences between men and women and their jobs in the church. And for me, it's not an easy subject because I did spend 3 years in a Finnish theological school where they did try to get me to accept women as pastors and that the the qualification that the Bible gives is outdated and it doesn't mean women of today, it meant women of that day. And I just can't accept that. I can't accept that the Bible changes through the times. I believe in the literal interpretation of the Bible. I believe that the message of Bible is throughout the eons. It doesn't change as the humans change, and we do change, not physically, not mentally, but our view of things does change, and not always for the better. As I've said before, the equality of women and men in common sense is now better than it has ever been, and that's a great thing. I'm not against equality in a workplace or in life in general. I'm not against that, but I am against of saying that women should be able to be pastors, and I think there's biblical evidence for that it's not so. Women should not be pastors, and it's not because God doesn't value women as much as He values men. That it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that God created man and woman to be different in many serious ways. You know, to try to take away the boundaries of our sex is like taking away our humanity. Men and women are different in every aspect of life. Of course, there are women that are more men-like and men that are more women-like, but the exception does not make the rule. Not in this case, and so I believe that we are meant to do things as men and as women, and one of those things is teaching. And the best example I can give you is that it was Eve that took the fruit. I don't think it was an apple or anything like that. It was a fruit. We don't know what kind of fruit. And it was Eve who took it. And yet God comes to Adam and says that, what have you done? So Eve did do the first sin, but Adam was the one who was, responsible for that sin. And why Adam was responsible? Because Adam was the caretaker of the world that God had created. Eve was created as a help and as a companion, but Adam was the one in responsible occupation, if you want. So the same thing is evident throughout the Bible. Men are the ones God deems to be responsible for these things. Women not as much. Women are of course we are all responsible for our own life. We are all responsible for our own sins, but in general, men are the ones that God put in charge of the church. Why? I don't know. I have no answer to that. Neither have I found any good answer for it. But maybe it's because, and this is just my thinking, but maybe it's because men tend to be more rational than women. Women tend to be more feeling driven than men, and maybe that's why men were put into this situation. And it's not a bad thing. It's women still do so much important work in the church, and without women we would not be able to teach. So it's not that I'm at a higher level if I'm a teacher as a man than a woman who takes care of the church, because without her I couldn't do what I do. You know, it's a symbiosis. You, both jobs are as important as the other, but teaching is something that is reserved for man, and by man I mean a male. And it's not sexist, it's not biased, it's not unequal equal thing. It's just how it is, and we should find that every job in a church is just as important as the other one. That's the whole thing about this, that we have valued teaching here, and what could I say, leading a meeting in here, and maybe taking care of your leaders in here. And that's why we have this inequality, because we have made rules that are not rules by God. And that's something that we need to address first. We can't address ministry before we address that without each other we wouldn't have a church. So but yeah, that's what I had in mind. It's 11 o'clock in the evening in Finland, so I'm pretty tired, as you can see. I'm in my new flat, one bedroom, well actually one room, not even one bedroom, but one room. I'm a caretaker in my church now. It's a small apartment, but it's cozy, it's fun, and my cat is somewhat pleased. Not happy, but pleased. And so I think I might be start to film these videos in this apartment. I can put a quick view. It's gonna be shaky and all, but that's my cat wall. And you also saw one of my hobbies, which is all these ringing and singing Christmas toys. I don't know why I collect them. I just started collecting them, and it's fun. But anyways, have a nice day. Leave a comment, share, whatever, But be blessed and remain in God.